Hello, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to the Tapped Out Wrestling Podcast. I'm, of course, Nick McDaniel, and as always, I am joined by Myron.
Hello. I'm so glad to be back on the air again this week, folks. Lots to talk about, but you hear it first at
Patreon.com/Tapped Out Pod. That is correct. If you were signing up over there, you would be getting this on a Tuesday, not on a Thursday, as we're dropping the show early as always as we can on the Patreon.com/Tapped Out Pod, amongst the other extra things. And just before we recorded today, we started talking about some new things that we're going to change up a little bit, get some new content so you can get them early, and you'll find out more of that as the weeks come. It was a cool little idea that I'm kind of excited that we're going to do, changing it up and doing some specials. Maybe is the word that we were looking at. So that is awesome.
Move mountains overnight.
Exactly. But hey, brother, first and foremost, we appreciate everybody who does sign up over at patreon.com/Tapped Out Pod. Thanks you all. Duke, I got your message. It took me a week later. I responded. I responded late, but I explained why.
Duke is on there?
Duke is. He responded on there. Yeah, he sent me a message, and I was tied up last week with all that stuff, which will, whole other ball game.
Send me some questions. Send us a question, Duke. Can't wait to hear them.
Yeah, keep the questions and information coming because, after we get through our weekly stuff, because, hey, that's where we're going to start, Myron. We're going to start right. And
Been a crazy week. We got our WrestleMania soundbite, Nick.
Yeah, man. I mean, this broke literally right before, we actually started recording on Raw last night. Kevin Owens called out Stone Cold Steve Austin to do a KO show at WrestleMania. But on the bump, literally minutes before, we waited to see what he was going to say before we hit record. And we got obviously that he's coming. And what did he say, Myron?
He's going to open up one last can of whoop ass on Kevin Owens.
Yeah.
At WrestleMania. It might be an interview. It might be a match. It might be a brawl. But I'm going to stomp your ass. You know how it is. Stone Cold comes out, cuts a promo. He gives you that epic soundbite for WrestleMania. You've got something now that's going to just fire people the hell up.
Yeah.
And I love the road. I love the road to WrestleMania. I can't be more excited to put on.
Yeah, man. And I'm going to skip that next note so I don't throw you off. I actually want to save that. I've got, the more I've thought about this, there's something I want to say at the end. So keep that next note.
Okay.
But on the road to WrestleMania, it's also, you could say it's kind of road to the Hall of Fame.
One of my favorite parts.
Yeah.
One of my favorite parts, the Hall of Fame. Going to go on directly after Smackdown this year. And the second announcement for Hall of Fame, Big Van Vader. That's something that I am super happy about. I think Texas was where he was from too, if I'm not mistaken, or
I think it was Colorado or something like that.
Colorado. Okay, then totally wrong. Sorry about that. But Vader was an icon, worldwide icon. Somebody who probably was one of the top moving big men ever.
I think he, even with as much love as he gets as far as being a really good big man, I still would say he's probably underrated.
Yeah. So we'll get some love for Vader this year at the Hall of Fame. So that's going to be a cool thing.
Oh, I agree, man. It's well overdue. I mean, look, things happen, and we've got all the reasons about why did it take forever to get him in? This should have happened years ago. And I'm not saying it shouldn't have. First of all, it should have, but I understand why it doesn't, right? I mean, that stuff happens. So,
yeah.
Also on SmackDown and Raw this week, I think what you are seeing, it's funny. I sat there when Austin Theory was walking to the ring on Raw last night. We're recording on Tuesday, folks. On Monday, when he was walking to the ring, I said, I looked at my wife and said, it is hard sometimes to wrap your head around the fact that it felt like just yesterday that we were watching that kid in the Felker Center at Monroe or the Landmark Arena, up in Cornelia. I mean, literally, it just feels like yesterday. Time flies, but I think...
How insane was that? I still remember, I think it was Crossroads or Shindig one. I was late getting there because of work. You were already there. I come in, you're talking to Terry Lawler at a table. You had just bought a shirt for your daughter from this fresh-faced babyface young man next to the table next to Lawler's, and it's Austin Theory.
That's the crazy thing. I need to find that shirt.
And you looked and said, he's a star.
Yeah.
He's going to be a star. And Terry's like, yeah, he's really got it. And now he's a star.
And here's
Vince McMahon's eyes both have the same wavelength for picking talent, Nick.
Well, here's the solidification of that, by the way. Seeing him on SmackDown and on Raw in the same week, and in an angle involving Vince, who he's going to, and everybody's like, oh my God, let me just crap all over he's going to be in a match with Pat McAfee. If you're not, this is me personally. By the way, I would make the same argument for Sami Zayn, by the way. If you're not wrestling for a world title or you're not in a major feud or whatever, give me the program with the celebrity.
Exactly.
It's exposure.
Yes.
By the way, it's exposure to people who aren't in the bubble. They're right inside the wrestling bubble.
That's the match that's going to make. Do they still have Entertainment Tonight? Is that still a TV show?
I don't think so.
Okay. So that's the match that when they say Johnny Knoxville wrestled at WrestleMania, you're going to get a picture of Sami Zayn. And nobody's going to know who Sami Zayn is. Everybody's going to know who Johnny Knoxville is. So they're going to ask, who's this other guy?
That's your TMZ clip. There you go. That's your TMZ clip, right?
Exactly. And the thing is, last time McAfee had a match, he impressed the hell out of everybody. Remember that?
Yeah. Oh no, 100% do. It was Adam Cole, and they tore it down at an NXT show. And I listen, that dude just acts like he's totally on speed all the time. He is 100 miles per hour.
He looks like Gary Lamb. He acts like Gary Lamb. He's famous Gary Lamb.
There you go. Well, it depends on levels of famous. Anyway.
Oh, that's right. Yeah, Gary is famous.
There you go.
I'm so close to him. Sometimes I forget he's a celebrity.
Right. There you go. And it kind of goes hand in hand. What we were just talking about theory is like, so tying into the Johnny Knoxville, Sami Zayn conversation we were just having, those two are obviously going to have a match at WrestleMania. We thought, oh my God, it's going to be for the Intercontinental title. Here comes swinging Ricochet on SmackDown and takes that title off of him. So two things. One, essentially we think the win is just to get the title out of that match, right? We don't want the Intercontinental title involved in the Johnny Knoxville,
exactly.
Celebrity.
That's a perfect way to sterilize the belt for one match, and you can put it right back on Sammy if you want to after WrestleMania.
Sure.
If that's what you want to do with it.
Yeah, I mean, here's the, are they actually going to have
a
match?
Marks up?
Hey, let me ask you this. What if it ends up being like Johnny's like, you know what? I got a spot in me, but I don't know that I have a match in me. What if it ends up being Ricochet versus Sammy for the IC title? And then listen, I know it's going to be Knoxville. They're going to do what they can. And by the way, a great talent like Sammy's going to pull it out. But he's embraced it too, by the way. He hasn't shit on the put me in here with Johnny Knoxville. No, he's going to embrace it. He's going to make it. I mean, he showed up at red carpets and stuff for Johnny Knoxville's movie.
Well, folks, you got to remember WWE wrestling and other wrestling is different. It's not about the quality of your opponent. It's not about your match qualities all the time. It's about star quality. Okay? You're an entertainer. What Vince said, I didn't catch all of the interview, but he basically said it's better to be called a superstar than a professional wrestler.
Right.
And he refers to these people as WWE superstars. And that's what they are. They're not wrestlers, even though they wrestle. I think people need to embrace that because that's just the way it is.
No, yes, and that's my point. But that's why I love the embracing it, just do it, taking it in and moving on.
Talking about wrestlers, William Regal, probably one of my favorite wrestlers when I was younger, is now in A&E.
AEW, but yes.
Jesus Christ, his brain farts all the time. Though my girlfriend asked me if I was having little strokes, and I was like, well, not as much as I used to. But got myself. But she's going to manage Moxley and Danielson. Okay, and he's going to work backstage. You just bought Ring of Honor, and you hired the guy who basically took care of NXT.
Yeah.
Wonderful addition. Wonderful addition from every single aspect. I think this is the best thing they've done.
I think his contributions there could be there. They will, in my opinion, he is more important to them backstage than out in front of the camera.
Yes.
And that's funny. People are like, oh, you don't think? No, I'm not saying he's not going to be good out front. I think he has more to offer backstage even than what he gave. So that's just my opinion. Yes. But look, the thing with AEW clearly loves groups and factions.
Yes.
Like, I don't know. I mean, are they going to bring in somebody else into this group? Maybe. I don't know. But look, they are always slapping guys in groups and things, which is, by the way, one of our favorite periods of wrestling of all time is the Attitude Era, completely filled with factions. So we're not crapping on it. I actually think it's a good tool to use, when you're trying to make stars. But that's just my take.
I think also it makes booking a hell of a lot easier when you've got groups you can use in pieces and all kind of different things. And the people that are breaking up, MJF and Wardlow, how good a storytelling was done with the whole MJF and CM Punk thing.
Because everybody knows I'm not the biggest CM Punk fan. I've never hidden that either. Whatever. And it's funny. The story was really good. So I can tell you, I'm not a big CM Punk fan, but I thought they did a phenomenal job with this whole storyline, the story arc. Everything was done very, very well, all the way up till the setup show on Dynamite with the hug and the kick, the low blow, all that good stuff. The show was, obviously the pay-per-view was really good. The match there, the dog collar match. So, the turn of Wardlow. So you kind of get the spin out of a faction, where you create now. So it's kind of, I got to break this into two parts. To finish off that story, it was funny because somebody asked me, we were having this conversation the other day, and I said, why do I love the CM Punk MJF story so much? And I'm like, because it's all about perspective. Well, what do you mean? The promo that Punk cut on Dynamite when he says, you don't like to look in the mirror and realize you're the villain, whatever. Like my whole argument, I was like, yes, because you are the freaking villain in this. You are the bad guy, and people are like, what? And I'm like, no, again, it's all perspective. I admitted I'm super harsh, and I've always been harsh on Punk. My stance has always been, and I've said it here on the show, if it wasn't about money and it was just about loving wrestling, why did we never see him back in, Ring of Honor or, NWA or MLW, anywhere? Because it finally took a boatload of cash to get him to come back. That's why.
Yeah.
He left the fans. He never even, and here's the thing. Had he gotten if he had done think about, had he done a Twitch channel or something? I don't know. I'm something where his fans, he didn't do like WrestleCade.
No.
He doesn't do appearances. He didn't do none of that. Like, at least go out and embrace your fans, even, if you're done with wrestling.
Yeah.
And to me, I felt like that was the part where I said, that was where I had to disconnect, where I didn't believe, like, oh, it's not about money. It's not so anyway, MJF was the babyface. End of discussion. But of course, we set into the spinoff now. He gets the rub from Punk, which you could argue maybe he needed or didn't. But dude, I will say this: I full credit to they elevated the shit out of MJF in that angle, that whole story arc. But now they stroll right into him, hopefully elevating Wardlow by spinning that into a feud with him. Great storytelling.
Amazing work. Amazing work. It's that turn on your partner, the turn on the guy, your boss. All of a sudden, Wardlow becomes the every man thing. I love it. I think this is going to be a great angle to work with.
Yeah, I mean, listen, it's it's a gamble you take, Myron, when you get into factions. That there's always going to be a guy who turns on you.
Yes.
But you know what else is a gamble? When you head over to our friends over at Prize Picks.
You still working on this?
It's 2 minutes to kickoff. Who do I pick?
2 words. Prize Picks. It's so easy.
Prize Picks is daily fantasy sports made easy. It's just you against the numbers. Simply pick the over-under on 2 or more players, and that's it. You can win up to 10 times your money in just one day. Join over 150,000 people who found a better way to play. Download the Prize Picks app today and get your first deposit match up to $100.
That's right, man. Make sure you're looking for that referral code in the show notes, as well. I should share that on the Facebook page as well, maybe Twitter as well. It's look, I personally play Prize Picks. I absolutely love it. Make sure you do so responsibly first and foremost. But man, hey, look, we're running long already because that's what we do sometimes. But we had to get back to that mailbag. We told you, man, for the last, we don't want to fall behind because they're coming, just coming and coming. So let's get it rolling, man.
Gerald from Fallon, Nevada. I wonder where that's at. What did you think of Vince's appearance on the Pat McAfee show? So I have not watched it yet. I want to hear your opinion on it, though.
My takeaway from it was the interview that we have always wanted from Vince, I think.
Okay.
Here's why. He's done them in, like when he did the Costas. I mean, Costas came after him and was kind of, whatever. It was one of those things like, it's funny. Was it in line because he is employed by WWE? Kinda. But he did, Pat talked about other stuff, but I think what he did, because he works there, first of all, a lot of people don't realize, Pat McAfee doesn't need his WWE job.
Oh, no.
Yeah, he makes tons of money outside it. I'm sure they pay him, like, he gets a good payday, I'm sure.
He's got a big deal. Big financial
like,
deal.
he's moving out of those offices. They're moving him into the Facebook headquarters, I believe, to shoot that. I mean, it's becoming a big deal.
Ooh.
Anywho, so, but I think knowing Vince or working for Vince, Vince knew what he was getting into when he went on that show. He knew how high energy Pat was. The thing is like Pat McAfee is the guy at the Smackdown desk. Like, that's Pat on his show. If you've never watched it, I'm telling you, like, he's always he's jumping up, he's standing up when he does the show. I mean, he's high energy.
Got a little Tony's.
You never know, man. But what it did though is somehow, some way, Vince seemed relaxed. I mean, he was leaning back, dude. I mean,
not defensive.
Huh?
Not defensive.
No, he seemed relaxed.
He wasn't called on some show where they accused wrestling of being fake, and then
it wasn't about, it was drugs and stuff. But he asked him, he's like, hey, was there ever a time you were worried, or was there ever, some stuff like that. I mean, but even at the end, it was like, hey, do you mind if we ask you a few questions? And Vince was like, oh, fire away, man. Go ahead. But he's so relaxed. I mean, Vince started dropping F-bombs. I was like not in a bad way. It was just like, why the fuck would I do that or whatever? And I was like, holy shit, that kind of thing. And I was like, what? Later he dropped a GD and I was like, what? I was like, Vince is chill. I'm like, he's relaxed. So, of
he's
course,
so polished. That's the thing that makes me want to watch this is Vince is always so polished and prepared. And so this is the message when he's on anything. That it's the idea of watching him relaxed. Is so
like him, he admitted to things like, obviously there was something in his child. Like there was a physical, he took a beating at some point because it was one of those, like, once you survive that, then nothing scares you. He's like one of those, I'm one of those few people on the planet. Like, I love confrontation, like not competition, confrontation. Like, I love that, and I'm like, all right, well. But it's just that they opened us to say those things, you know what I'm saying, and be willing to throw that out there. I thought was just different. Of course, the big news coming out was he's going to be the one who inducts, Undertaker at Hall of Fame. So that was a big, huge thing. And he did say it's going to be one of the hardest things he's ever done in his life because he loves that guy so much.
Yeah, that guy's been so important to him.
Yeah. We also heard that he gave Pat McAfee the match. We discussed that earlier. Obviously, it turned out to be against Austin Theory, apparently. But, the only thing, I will tell you this, the only thing that stood out to me that made me pause was he did ask him, like, have you thought about succession, like, whatever, and he's kind of like, he kind of like, no, like, I'm not gonna die, I'm gonna live for, he's like, because they were asking about how old, he's like, his mother lived to like 101 or something, he was saying.
Yeah, she just died recently.
Yeah,
if I'm not mistaken.
so there's that, right? There's that piece. But I thought it was telling that he didn't jump straight to, Triple H and Stephanie and, that taking over. And I'm reading by the way, I'm telling you, I'm reading way too much into this maybe. But I was like, I'm just really convinced that Triple H's heart situation is worse than we think, or we know. I shouldn't say we think, because I'm clearly here sitting there saying it. And I really think that this company is sold before, like the goal is to have it sold so the family's set up when they're gone, before Vince passes, and I don't know when that number is, what it is, whatever. Just simply because I just don't know that. Think about it. Sean's still running NXT.
Yeah.
I mean, that's just my take, and
they just got rid of another one of Triple H's people.
Well, it was the global something that I don't think that's still happening, so that's probably part of the case.
This makes me nervous. Triple H was always one of my favorites. Yeah. I typically gravitated towards the heels, and not because I was a cool heel guy. I really just loved the stories. And Triple H was one of my favorites because he was so good. And the idea that he is not going to take over the company, and the idea that he is in bad shape really, really worries me. Saddens me.
Yeah. I am, man. I agree. But let's move it on before you cry.
Talking about big changes. Sam from Rockwell, Arkansas. Do you think it's a big deal that the WWE tryout is not bringing in any indie talent? Well, folks, they told you they're moving on a different path. Will indie talent still be a part of WWE? Of course. They're not going to be able to get these people, athlete come in and understand wrestling and do this stuff. But they've got to have talent. What do you expect?
Yeah, and I think, look, first and foremost, it does solidify the focus, right? That they said that they're going to focus more on college athletes, amateur athletes, blah, 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 so forth, and bringing them in so they can kind of bring them up their own way. Now, is that a bad sign for indie talents? It could be. I mean, honestly, I think it could be. But you're still going to have AEW, Ring of Honor, even though they're under the same umbrella at that point. You got NWA, Impact, MLW. Am I missing anybody? I mean, that's pretty much it, right? I mean, so, I think that the question becomes like here, my surprise of it, because by the way, they're talking about the one in Dallas, I guess, or Texas over the WrestleMania weekend. Yeah. They're going to do one. But it doesn't surprise me that it's heavy this way. But like if they bring in 50 talents, I think is what they're bringing in, 50. It surprises me that it's not like, even if it's like 45-5 or 40-10.
Yeah.
It just surprised me that it was 50-0, like no indie talent.
Yeah, but this is they're drawing attention. It's their big show. This might be just let's show our move into the NIL program. Let's prove our intentions on these college athletes by at our biggest show of the year. We're going to have this going on, and we're going to bring in that. And we're going to talk about these programs, introduce people to it. Indie talent. I don't think this is something to worry about. This is just my take on it. If you look at the current biggest star in NXT right now, it's Nikita Lyons, who they got from WOW. So they took her from another independent program. Look at Braun Breaker. They didn't take him from independents. They took him from the Kennesaw State football team, if I'm not mistaken.
He finished. I mean, he tried the draft. He wasn't going to go pro, and
see, folks,
within a year, he's freaking on Raw. Him and Ciampa wrestled the Dirty Dogs on Raw.
Athlete that was trainable, or standout talent, coachable.
There you
go. Or standout talent like Nikita Lyons, who is ready to go, and they just needed to do a couple of things and get her in the WWE style and find the appropriate ring attire. and finish her and get her out there on the screen.
Now look, and the indie guys, I think, like you said, they're going to have to do something to stand out. I think to get the attention. But I think the days of straight up or possibly, you got that level up program. They'll figure all that as they go. But we mentioned one avenue they're apparently still going to continue to have is.
That's the question of the week. Billy from Chase City, Virginia. What do you think Tony Khan will do with Ring of Honor now that he purchased it? Well, folks, let me tell you something. Tony Khan was so excited to tell us about this. I came downstairs to turn the TV on. I got the TV on at 8:06. Wasn't even to the first commercial break yet. I missed the announcement. Okay, Tony had to get this out there. He's excited. Is it in good hands? I think so. But what's he going to do with it?
So I'm really going to blow your mind because the notes are out of order for what I want to talk about it. Because let's first, the question is, what is he going to do with it now that he's purchased it? So let's go with one. He's already said that he's essentially going to continue running the brand, developmental of sorts, I guess, and he's going to book it. Okay, so my question is, are you replacing Dark and Elevation? Is that what you're going for? I will say this, if he's going to run two separate promotions, he doesn't have a bloated roster anymore. So that solved one problem.
Yeah.
I will fully tell you out too that, like, look, if he, where's it going to air? I think that's the question, right? Like, what are you going to air it on? Is it going to be Ring of Honor Rampage on Friday nights? Everybody's like, well, if he still has the deal with Sinclair and he gets on those, Eric Bischoff was quick to point out that those spots are worthless. I mean, a lot of, it was here in Atlanta, and Jesus, I'm trying to remember when it was. It was like midnight on Saturday. I mean, it was the old ECW time slots, but a little bit better.
Oh.
Because ECW sometimes was like 1 and 2 in the morning.
Yeah.
So are the time slots better than ECW? Yes. And everybody's like, well, you're gonna watch it on demand anyway. Hell, I don't know if I can on demand WATL or it was or the WB or UPN or whatever it's on. I can't remember.
I think I might be able to with my because I got the AT&T TV, Direct TV, whatever you call it, deal where everything's on the satellite and a super fast internet. So I can do that stuff, and it's easy for me, but
yeah.
It's not a lot of incentive to get me to watch it.
Okay, let's first. I want to put out here too. That's really one of the few negatives I have is I don't know, is there any value there to airing them on those channels? Conrad Thompson threw out hey, why don't you maybe use it as a commercial, and do like a recap show of your Dynamite Rampage or whatever, put it in that slot, make a best of for the week, whatever, and make a commercial to drive people to your TNT. And my argument is I think the people that are going to watch it at midnight on those channels, they already know about it on those other two channels. Yeah. That's just my opinion, but I could be totally wrong. Now, did he overpay for it? That's been the $1 million question because everybody's like, oh, I love business, and did he overpay for it? The answer is very, very complicated. He absolutely did, because if he didn't overpay, Vince would own the thing today.
Yeah.
However, but that's funny. But because of that statement, I think if he's looking at doing a streaming service or he's trying to sell some type of a package to HBO Max or something like that, if he gets that deal and it's valuable enough, then no. If he gets a profit out of that, then immediately it's everybody else. It's short term it's a loss. I will go ahead and tell you short term it's a bad investment. Well, short term it's a loss. It's not a bad investment. Long term, and I think Tony Khan's playing the long term game. That's just my opinion. And everybody I don't know that he thinks beyond. I think he's a business guy. I think he's thinking long term. I think there's some money to make. I mean, like you said, let's say he paid, and I don't know what he paid. Everybody's throwing out rumors of 30 to 40 million. Let's say he paid $30 million. Mm-hmm. But if HBO Max gives him a multi-year deal worth $40 million for streaming, and he makes $10 million, $10 million.
Think about it. Peacock gave WWE $1 billion. Okay. And so he's got a partial of that. He's got a small piece. $5 million a year is not out of the question. That'd be a small thing to pay for a streaming content like that. You've already got your library so far. You got Ring of Honor's library. You've got your first show since it was in Ring of Honor's library. This is something that you're going to use. You're not going to sell DVDs anymore off of it.
No.
But you can now use this footage to build on. Your company now has a legacy and a built-in history now.
One of the immediate values, and it's one of the few, I will say this. If they use this idea, our buddy Dylan's going to be working himself to death. I think one of the big values of what you can accomplish is if you run feuds with guys that are they're older now, that were around in the Ring of Honor days. If those feuds, like, if you're going to tell us you had a thing back in Ring of Honor, now you can show us. Like, look, the guys who do those, the guy who does those Road to Revolutions, the Road to All In, does a pretty fucking good job, in my opinion. But what do I know? But he's got a lot of footage now that he can work with, that he can pull from, to tell that story even better versus just a promo. You've got some video footage background to lay that groundwork there. So put that kid to work. I think that's, you're seeding, basically, you're putting more content into your content.
You're giving yourself a history to look at now. You've got a visual history you can integrate into your current program if you need to.
Yeah, lots of stuff tools to work with, but again, it's I think it's a long-term game. That's what we're looking for. Something for the long run, not something for the long haul. So
which hopefully means they're going to hang around for a long time.
That's the plan. But
go ahead. Your future is uncertain. The future of AEW is uncertain, but my future isn't, because I deal with.
Life insurance may be the best way to provide financial security for your loved ones after you're gone. But what's the right type of life insurance to have? Which do you need, whole or term life insurance? The answer may surprise you. You may want both, because you have both short-term and long-term financial goals. Both types will help you leave something behind for your family. In general, it's more affordable to buy term insurance to cover short-term expenses and whole life insurance to cover long-term expenses if you passed away. Talk to a Women Life representative today.
Well, that's it, man. Look, when you're thinking about your future, there's lots of decisions to make. Call your local rep there for the Woodman Life. 678-300-8501 and help him make those decisions. But Myron, there's another person who has a huge decision to make in the upcoming days, weeks.
It's not our friend Michael from Sterling, Illinois, but he asks, will all the rumors of contracts flying around, do you think that Cody should go back to AEW to help run Ring of Honor?
So that one picked up steam after the whole Ring of Honor purchase and things like that. And is it an angle? Here's my thing. I need Cody to show up somewhere, because this whole thing of it's all on work, it's an angle, blah, blah, blah.
Yeah,
blah.
I'm tired of listening to it
Already. It did not take long. But let's go with the sake of if it's not. Everything's legit, right? Should he go back and run Ring of Honor? My answer is shockingly is no. This isn't by the way, this is not a knock on the individual. I think if he left because Tony Khan took back control from the EVPs and started booking and having his own committee and basically being the focal point. And here's the thing. Here's why I say this. It's crazy to say this. We've both agreed. We think that the product itself has gotten better since that happened.
Yes.
So I'm a control freak, and I mentioned this in weeks past.
Mm-hmm.
So I understand being in total control or wanting to be in total control. So I'm okay with that part. The thing is, though, if Cody left because he felt like, hey, I was told I was going to have more power than I have, and then it was taken away, so I'm leaving because of it, why would you turn around and come back? if somebody said, hey, if you come back, I'll let you run Ring of Honor. Fool me once, shame on you. Fool me twice, shame on me, right?
Oh, yeah, I see that. I kind of wanted to come back just because, I want to see that nostalgia of Cody with this startup company type thing that we got at the first when I really enjoyed it when he was on top of that cage and at the Atlanta show. And, I get all dusty into Cody sometimes. You know what I mean? I keep trying to see Dusty in him. I don't know. The thing about that was it's wrestling, and you can't always say that what they tell you you're going to do is what you're going to do, because apparently the contracts aren't like tiered like baseball contracts and stuff like that. But you mentioned something earlier about Chris Jericho when we were talking and how he looked at the EVP thing.
Oh yeah, I've got the quote. I actually kept the quote written down here because, it's funny because when you talk about wanting to be EVPs, in a Sports Illustrated article recently, they asked Jericho about it, and he said, the only reason I wasn't an MVP, Jesus, I wasn't an EVP is because I didn't want to be. He said they asked me, and I said no. That's just way too much work for what you're planning on doing. And he's like, Tony Khan's the boss anyways, and I knew that from the start. So I wasn't going to play grab ass and use an EVP as an ego boost. He's like, fuck that, and just give me the more money. So he took more money, said keep your position, because he still had Fozzy, and he still had which by the way is, from a business perspective, kudos to him, right? Was it in character when he did the interview? Maybe, maybe not. But in hindsight now, if that were the case, should Cody, because here, with Vince, what you're going to get. He's going to pay you this amount, and it's a chance. Tony Khan, should they have been better off just to say, just give us the money because you're going to take over it anyway at one point? They didn't know that, but that's what they got. So let me ask you this, Myron, did they get hosed by taking less money in EVPs than taking more money and not wanting to be an EVP?
Well, if they really wanted to be, yeah, they got hosed. I mean, I don't personally know these guys' motivation. I can understand Chris Jericho's motivation because he's an older guy who has been around the wrestling business for so long that he worked for WCW, for Christ's sake. He's seen it all. He would understand that Tony Khan would eventually, tighten his grip. So,
I just think it's simple. Chris Jericho was like, I was brought in to be a superstar. I was brought in to bring over, put over other guys. And I was, he didn't want to, I don't think he wanted to book. I don't think he wanted to get into the minutia of all that stuff.
No.
He's like, I want to fly in, do what I got to do, fly back out and go play with the gigs with Fozzy like I'm going to do. I think that's what he wanted, and that's what he got.
That's brilliant.
Yeah.
And he seems to be doing very well with it. He's looking good again. He's doing the cruises again. So I think he got the best deal.
Yeah. You know who else has got a sweet deal, man, over at
Who's
AEW?
that?
Well, let's talk to the next question first, because I think it's a sweet deal coming.
Armando from Centerville, Texas. After the tag team rumble on AEW this week, who do you think should be next in line for the tag titles? Now, this is one of those questions that I really should pay more attention to AEW for, because you had a good answer.
Well, I mean, I don't know if it's not even the right answer. It was just one of those, obviously you saw the picture there. If you're watching on YouTube, you would have seen my answer is Sting and Darby Allin. I had this conversation with somebody the other day, and it was kind of an awkward, like, why in the world would you say that? And I know he's there for a different purpose, and you're never gonna make Sting your champion. I don't believe so. I don't think they're ever gonna make Sting the AEW champion.
No.
But why not make him a tag team champion? He needs to be a champion of some kind during his tenure there.
Put some gold on him.
Yeah.
That's good for a man.
So I think that, for one, you would get Sting a title. I think it would do a lot to bring, because Darby, man, think about this, and this isn't bad booking or shit. I think this is just momentum, right? I feel like Darby took off, especially when Sting got there. He was on a rocket. And just over the last maybe few months, maybe a couple months, he's kind of come back down a little bit. I think put him in a title picture, the tag title picture will help kind of shoot him back up.
Yes.
Give him I think Sting and Darby have seemed to be in everything in a bloodbath, not blood, what I'm saying? Like a feud, like heavy feuds.
Yeah.
Them and Jurassic Express would be something just unique and different. Change of pace. I mean, so, we're not going from heated feud, they're just, it's for the gold. We just want to, Sting wants to be a champion, and he wants to do it with the kid or vice versa.
And it sets up their break eventually and puts Darby over, and Sting can like have one of those lines out into the sunset, those zip line into the sunset.
Exactly. I mean, so I think a lot of that could still, I think there's a lot to be made there, and maybe it's time. Maybe it's time to go down that path. Like, I don't know how long Sting's contract is for and all that stuff, but maybe it's time to go ahead and start making that move and you fully utilize. Put the straps on them, leave it on them for a little while, and then on top of that, then you break them up and you have the feud. And like, I could get sick, I think a year out of that. But I mean, but that's just my take on it.
You say it's time for Sting. I think it's time for something else, Nick.
You think it's time for him to admit something? Is that what you're talking about, Myron?
Yes.
All right.
Yes. One of the hardest things to do in life is to admit when you're wrong and apologize.
Yep. Nobody likes to say they were wrong. Nobody likes to say they were sorry. When, whether you say something, do something, whatever, it's the hardest thing to do. So I think you're right. It's finally time for us to come out and admit, like, hey, look, for a long time, we said that Randy Orton was the chocolate dip cone of the WWE.
Yes. The guy that always played it safe.
Yep. Mr. 3-star. He always kept
boring almost.
And at times that was the case, right? Like, we tell the story. We were talking about this a couple years ago. This was literally a few years ago. We were having this conversation when this chocolate dip cone thing. This is where it came from. Seth Rollins essentially begged and pleaded for Randy Orton to do the curb stomp, RKO out of a curb stomp at WrestleMania. And like, I don't know, man, I'm not gonna. He didn't want to do it. He didn't want to do it. Why? Because Randy was afraid they would mess it up. Like, it wasn't worth the risk. You know what I mean? It was like, it wasn't worth the risk to do it. Mm-hmm. But when he does, bam. And that's what and it's funny. We were watching Raw. This was kind of what I alluded to earlier when I said we would discuss it later. Gable goes for a moonsault and Randy Orton hits an RKO from a moonsault. And I was like, see, when he takes those chances, he freaking nails it, man.
Oh, wow. He killed it. It was beautiful. It was just absolutely. I didn't even see it. You know what? I didn't see it coming. How wild is that?
It was
came out of nowhere.
Yeah.
Maybe Randy was just too damn good. Maybe we always saw him being good and we got complacent and bored with the fact that Randy never messed anything up. Randy was always there. Maybe we just if someone never fails, it's not interesting anymore.
Well, it's one of those things. Is like, is he? Because we always heard like guys like Jericho. I mean, and on and on and on. They all, like, every guy you talk to about Randy, man, is like, man, he's so freaking good. Like, he's in the ring, man, he's so talented. And the question is, and this is funny. I would love to know from the people listening, tappedoutpod@gmail.com. Is Randy Orton just so smooth in the ring that it feels like he's not working hard? We know he is, but to the naked eye, just watching, it's like it's so fluid and it's so easy.
He doesn't get out of breath. He doesn't get blown up.
Yeah.
He's a freak of nature, man.
Yeah.
He's basically bred for wrestling. He's been around, not only from one of the best families, he's been around the best wrestlers. He came up with Flair and Triple H. Jesus Christ, the guy's been. He's done it all.
Yeah.
So, what do we expect? And I don't think,
Myron, I don't want to cut you off, but I want to tell you what I expect. When you see that curb stomp RKO, you see that moonsault, give me those attempts more often. Like, give me the match that I know somewhere. And here's the crazy thing. And we all allude to the breakups eventually coming, and he's going to have. If he really likes, and because that's the story, it's like, hey, he really likes Riddle. That's why they're still together for who knows, whatever. But they're going to have a feud. They're going to go, and this is hopefully going to be into a Mania. We've got weeks to get there, folks. Is he willing to give that extra to make that match with Riddle that good at WrestleMania?
Does he need somebody to bring out the best in him? Does he need Seth Rollins? Does he need Matt Riddle pushing him? Does he need? Because I never figured him and Riddle out, because they, the gimmick was they were exact opposites, but I think they would be in real life too, wouldn't they? But
yeah, I mean, you would think, but I mean, you never know, man.
This is the most iconic matchup since the Rock and Sock connection, for Christ's sake.
It's really cool because he addressed I've been doing this 20 years, and this is some of the most fun, over 20 years, but some of the most fun I've had, and that's a cool thing. And I think you can see that, and I think you can see it with the matches and stuff, the efforts and the entertainment value, and maybe that was it. Maybe that now he's going out of his way a little bit, even in the entertainment side. Yeah, that he's grasping a hold a little bit more, but that's okay.
Yeah, that was his weak suit. He just never was entertaining. And a lot of times, you watch a lot of these technical promotions where all they do is technical wrestling and stuff, and you don't get as entertained by it because you're used to seeing more and more of personality and stuff, which you didn't get out of Randy. Yeah. So maybe that's it. I don't know. But Randy Orton has really, to me, this has been my favorite Randy Orton run of all time.
Yeah, no, I'm not disagreeing with you. It's really, really good. And like I said, maybe that's because that's what we expect every single time. So, but time will tell. Hopefully we get the match that we expect, and we can kind of go from there at WrestleMania. But speaking of WrestleMania, man, we got something really special coming up in the next couple of weeks. Keep an eye out for it, and you don't want to miss it. And the way you don't miss it is you're subscribing to us anywhere and everywhere. On YouTube. Hey, on YouTube, man, don't just, look, you got to subscribe, and you got to click that little bell to turn the notifications on, so when we drop something new, it comes up for you. Like I said, I don't want to spoil it because I think it's going to be in the next week or so that one's going to come out. But we will announce it. Subscribe, like I said, podcast players, iHeartMedia, Apple Podcast, Amazon Music, Spotify. Love us, Spotify. That's our big winner right now.
Yeah. Oh, God, it's taking off like crazy. Yeah. Thank you, Spotify listeners.
Yep. And, of course, if you want videos early, the little extras that we throw in over at patreon.com/tappedoutpod. We always appreciate you guys over there for, supporting us, and not just, we're not just saying you support us. Putting your money where your mouth is and actually financially supporting us to keep the show going and keeping all the good,
we love you, and we
do. Before we get out of here, Myron, look, no Georgia Indy talk attached this week. We're planning on something coming up on that one as well. You got anything before we go home, or?
No, I enjoyed the Impact pay-per-view. We hadn't talked about that. Deonna Purrazzo is insane. Josh Alexander returned. I love what they're doing. We had a phenomenal weekend at Indy Wrestling, even though we didn't get to go to anything.
Yep.
Personal and work. But man, WrestleMania season always gets me in the best of moods as a wrestling fan. So awesome. Thank you.
Yeah, I did want to shout out that though about the Indy. Look, we did not get out to get to the Indy shows. That's why we didn't have a talk section, and we had a passing in our little family group friend family. So we missed that. Stayed home, did some husband stuff. To anyway, do what you're supposed to do. So, but I do want to say, couple shout outs. Palmetto Express, your new Southern Fried Tag Team Champions.
Yes.
Kudos to those kids who've been putting in the hard work, and they captured the gold there.
That ladder match was sick, folks. Go check that out. It was sick.
Yeah, I've heard nothing but great things about that Southern Honor card that they had up there. Heard it was a really good show. Kudos for Owen, still your Southern Honor champion.
Huge drawing crowd. Wish I could have been there.
Yeah, over 500 man. with a cage, and then they had a death match, and then they had, on and all the stuff that's going on.
And action wrestling killed it. I don't know if they've ever drawn a crowd that big. Then a lot of our people we know went up to Chattanooga for SCI and killed it there. I haven't seen a crowd figure on that show, but it looked like it was another one of their big shows.
Proc the Croc Johnson is still, like I said it last week, separating from the pack, folks, separating from the pack. Speaking of separating from the pack, Mucha Lucha ran. I do want to address that real quick. Get a little
Jesus Christ.
Kudos to those guys. You know what, Meyer? We're just gonna have to do a whole George Indy talk section separate. We're just gonna have to. So we're you know what? Keep we tell you to subscribe for a reason. It's gonna drop when we get it cut, man. So we'll do that on another. We'll record another video.
Handy dandy notebook.
And
write some notes.
Absolutely, man. So look, we're going to cut it there because, this is for all of our national friends and everything, that listeners or whatever. We greatly appreciate you guys. Well, man, if that's all we've got on this episode, what's the old saying, brother? If I've got nothing and you've got nothing, what time is it?
It's time to tap out.